What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here, and I'm going to show you how I'll be setting up my fantasy cruncher for tonight's showdown slate between the Bills and the Bengals. I'll be setting up for the largest field GPP on DraftKings. While you're coming in, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell button so you can get notification when our shows go live. All right, first thing I'm going to do here is make sure I've got my columns where I want them to be. I might have already done this. All right. So I've got my columns arranged so I can see ownership projections, my projection, exposure caps, and then how much I get of players after I've run a crunch right in the center of my screen. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort by projection and remove every player with a projection of 0. This will just make it go a little bit faster when I'm making groups later, because these guys will no longer show up as I'm trying to find players in the groups tab. And just click and scroll. Pretty easy to remove them all. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to the captain tab here, and I'm going to set an exposure cap of 20%, meaning that now I won't get more than 20% of any player in the captain spot. Of course, if you want to get more than 20% of some players in the captain spot, you can change for individual players as well. You can also obviously set a different cap than 20% if that is not your preference. But say you want 30% of Jamar Chase, you can come in here and change this to 30%. Pretty easy to adjust how you want to. All right, next I'm going to go into the advanced options. I'll be working in two tabs here, the general tab and the groups tab. Starting here in the general tab, unique players per lineup. I'm going to be setting up here for a 150 set of lineups. In a 150 set, I'm going to leave this at one unique player per lineup. If I were going to be making 40 or fewer lineups, I would probably change this to 2 unique players per lineup just for the sake of diversifying my lineups. Salary cap, I'm not going to set a minimum. I will set a maximum. Again, this is just for the purpose of avoiding duplication. If my lineup is good enough to win the tournament, I don't want to just win, $5,000. I want to win $100,000. And the best way to do that is to avoid duplication. And one of the easiest ways to avoid duplication is just to leave some salary on the table. I'm going to set a salary cap here of $49,000. I'm leaving $1,000 on the table in all of the lineups I'm making here. Offensive players versus defense, the default is set to a max of 2 players. I'm going to change that to 5 players. So I could theoretically have 5 players from one team against just the defense of the opposing team. Not something I'm going to have in a lot of lineups, but I want to allow for it to have, maybe I'll have a couple of them in a 150 set. Doesn't win all that often, but also nobody wants to play it, and it certainly can win. Exposure cap, I'm going to leave at 100%. I already changed it to 20% in the captain spot specifically. Randomness, I'm going to set my randomness here at 30%. All about how much control you want over your lineups. If you want more control over your lineups, set a lower number here. I know some people who use 0% randomness because they want complete control, but I think 30% has worked well for me. Minimum projection included in calculation, the default is set to 3. I'm going to leave it at 3. That means that if a player projects for fewer than 3 fantasy points, if I want them in my player pool, I need to give them a boost, a manual boost to their projection, make sure that it's above 3 fantasy points, but I'm going to leave it at 3 here being the cutoff. Players from each team max, the default is set to 5. I'm going to leave that at 5 so I can have 5 players from one team against just 1 player from the opposing team. You know what I did immediately the first time I won 6 figures in a DFS contest? I converted my trial membership to Stokastic, awesome at the time, to a full annual subscription. That's because I knew these were the best tools in the industry. That was 2019, and they've gotten even better since then. Well, good news. You can get full access to these same tools without winning 6 figures first with a great offer from BetMGM. You can get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and bet at least $10. That's every tool on the site for every sport other than Fantasy Cruncher, a $240 value. All you need to do is click the link in the description of this video, follow the steps, and deposit $10 or more, and place a bet of $10 or more on whatever you want. And when that bet settles, MGM will hit you up with how to get your free subscription to Stokastic. You don't even need to win the bet. On top of all that, you also get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That means if you win the bet, you win the bet. If you lose the bet, you still get your money back in free bets. It's legit free money and a free subscription to the best DFS tools out there. Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be added to your Stokastic subscription after the fact. Reminder, make sure you use the link or we won't be able to track you. All right, next I'm going to go into the Groups tab. And the groups that I think are the most important revolve around quarterbacks. So we'll start here with a Josh Allen captain group. So I'm finding here's Josh Allen in the captain spot, making him my key player. I'm going to sort by position and add every Bills pass catcher to the secondary group. So they're not key players, but they are going to be in the group. Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, McKenzie, Gabe Davis, Shakir, Knox, Quentin Morris. And I am going to include the running backs here as well. All right, that'll do it for this group. Now, Josh Allen, obviously an elite rushing quarterback. He's rushed for like 750 yards already this year. Certainly could be optimal in the captain spot without bringing along any pass catchers. So I am going to click this only apply plus minus adjustments button. Generally, I still prefer to have at least one pass catcher in lineups that have Josh Allen at captain, but I'm not forcing it. In a 150 set, I think I'm going to allow for some lineups that have Josh Allen at captain without any pass catchers, just because he clearly has that upside to rush for 100 yards and a touchdown and just do most of his damage on the ground. He's more likely to get there with at least one pass catcher. So although I'm clicking this box and I'm not requiring any pass catchers with Josh Allen at captain, I am also going to give boost to all of his pass catchers to make it more likely that I do get to a pass catcher when I have Josh Allen at captain. And typically, this is really just trial and error. This 12% number here, nothing meaningful about it. It's just a number that I found to work pretty well to get to exposures that I like for receivers. And then I adjust sometimes for different receivers. If they project too well and I don't want to have 100%, I might cut back on that number. And typically, running backs, most running backs, I set a lower number here. So I give a little bit of a boost to pass catching running backs, but not a huge one. So I'm going to leave this group here for now. And of course, as I said, it's trial and error. If I come out and see that all of my Josh Allen captain lineups have 100% Stephon Diggs or 100%, I don't know, Gabe Davis, then I might come back and give a lower boost here. But this is where I will start. I'm going to name this group. All right, new group. I'm going to do the same thing now with Joe Burrow. Close to the same thing. It's not going to be the same rules, but same idea. I'm going to go find Joe Burrow in the captain spot, make him my key player. Once again, find all of these Bengals pass catchers now, add them to the secondary group. And again, I'm going to include these running backs. I was pretty surprised looking at Joe Mixon's game log. He's got like 15 targets over the past couple weeks. Is fairly involved in the passing game, as is obviously Samaje Perine. All right, so that is going to be the group. With Joe Burrow, I am going to require at least one pass catcher. He has shown some rushing upside this year. I think he's up at like 250 rushing yards so far this year and like 5 rushing touchdowns. So he's kind of upped his rushing a little bit this year. But I'm still going to require at least one pass catcher. And then once again, I'm also going to give boost to pass catchers to make it more likely that I get to multiple. All right, so that's all I'm doing with this group. I'm just saying require at least one and then give boost to the pass catchers. So more often when I've got Burrow captain, I'd like to have multiple. Again, that's because of this scoring dynamics on DraftKings. Every passing play, the quarterback scores fewer fantasy points than the receiver. It's pretty difficult for a non-rushing quarterback to be optimal in the captain spot without bringing along multiple pass catchers. And then, it's kind of a sliding scale. The more a quarterback runs, the more likely you can get away with that they can be optimal without having a pass catcher in the flex. And Joe Burrow, he's kind of on the mid range as far as rushing ability. So I want to require at least one, and then I'm giving boost to pass catchers to make it more likely I get to multiple. All right, I'm going to create another group that is going to be a Burrow flex group. I'm going to find Joe Burrow in the flex, make him my key player. And then same thing, I'm going to add all of these Bengals pass catchers to a secondary group. And then now, because I've got Burrow in the flex, I can also add all of these pass catchers in the captain spot. All right, and that'll do it for this group. All I'm saying with this group, I'm going to leave the rule just as it is. I'm just saying if I've got Joe Burrow in the flex, that's my key player, use at least one player from this group. I'm not giving boosts or anything like that. I'm just requiring at least one pass catcher when I've got Joe Burrow in the flex. And with Josh Allen, I'm not even going to make a group. More often than not, I'm going to end up with a pass catcher with Josh Allen anyway, just because they project well enough. But I'm not going to require it. I'm going to allow for Josh Allen in the flex without any pass catchers, which I guess I did at captain as well, but I'm not even going to give boosts here. I'm just going to leave it as is. And if I end up with some lineups that have, 5 Bengals players and just Josh Allen, or 4 Bengals players, Josh Allen and the Bills defense, something like that, I'm okay with that with Josh Allen because he does have elite rushing upside for a quarterback. All right, I'm going to save this, which again, have no idea what it does, but I do it every time anyway. All right, now I am going to crunch out 150 lineups using my projections and see what they look like. And all I do with my lineups now, so I set those groups for correlation purposes. And, obviously you saw what I did in general setting and set a cap to avoid duplication, that kind of thing. The last part of my process, there are 2 things I'm looking at, which are exposures for each player. And I go position by position looking at exposures, and then the lineups themselves. And I usually start with the lineups themselves, see if they correlate the way I want them to, if I need to make any adjustments to my correlations in groups. Starting here, we've got Joe Burrow in the captain spot with 3 pass catchers. That looks good. We've got Josh Allen in the flex with a pass catcher. This lineup correlates perfectly. Next lineup, Josh Allen with 3 pass catchers, Joe Burrow with 1. Again, correlates perfectly. Love these lineups. Now we've got Stefon Diggs in the captain spot with Josh Allen. That looks good. Joe Burrow with Hayden Hurst, both kickers. Looks like a good lineup. Isaiah McKenzie in the captain spot, Josh Allen in the flex. Looks good. Burrow with 2.5, if you want to count Joe Mixon pass catchers. That looks good. Hayden Hurst with Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Diggs McKenzie. Yeah, these are all looking like they are correlating well enough. I think that's just a matter of the pass catchers in this game project well enough that you're going to have them in there pretty frequently anyway. So not running into a lot of lineups that are lacking in correlation here. Yeah, I would say that I am happy with these lineups. Okay, here's the first one you see here. Josh Allen in the flex without any pass catchers. He's got Tyler Bass, the kicker, and the Bills defense. Again, I allowed for that on purpose just because we know Josh Allen, he could rush for 100 yards and a touchdown, maybe throw a touchdown to Stefon Diggs. And if Diggs goes for, 4 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown, he's still probably not going to be optimal because of his price tag. There are plenty of ways for Josh Allen to be optimal because of his rushing upside, to be optimal in the flex without bringing along a pass catcher. So I did intentionally allow for that in some lineups, and there's an example of one right there. In general, though, I would say these all look like good lineups to me. So then the other part of my ending process, I make sure they correlate well enough, and then I just go position by position to see if I'm getting to exposure levels that I like on each player. So starting with quarterback, 60% Joe Burrow, 77% Josh Allen, certainly plenty. Generally, when my first run, I'm looking more for, am I getting to not enough of certain players? And then I give boosts if I don't think I'm getting to as much as I want. I don't worry as much about, if I have 97% Josh Allen, which looks like I have 97% Josh Allen right now. I don't worry about that as much because I'm going to go through and give boosts to players I'm not getting enough of. And then if I, after I've done that a couple times, if I'm still getting to 97% Josh Allen, then I might start thinking about cutting back his projection just a little bit to get a little bit less. But in my first few runs, I'm more looking at players. Am I getting to enough of them? And I see Joe Mixon, I'm getting to 12%. I don't know. Bills defense, pretty tough. I don't know that I want much more than 12% Joe Mixon, but maybe I do. So maybe I give a little bit of a projection boost. And so this is all my processes at this point. I'm looking, am I getting enough of this player? And then I look at how do they project relative to the other players at the position. And sometimes I look at other positions as well. What do I need to do to get, about how much I want of them in my lineup? And typically I will go, sometimes I'll crunch as many. I think I've crunched as many as 40 times on a game before. Not often that I do that many times, but I do it pretty incrementally. So I don't usually go from, Devin Singletary at 9.1. I don't go up to a projection of 12, but maybe I'll go up to, 10.4. See if that gets him into more of my lineups. And it's just a trial and error. That's all I'm doing here. James Cook is a projection for 8.88. I'm only getting 3%. Maybe I'll bring him up to 10. Samaje Perine, I'm getting to 5% with a projection of 7. Maybe I'll give him a little bit of a bump. And then currently, Nyheim Hines, Reggie Gilliam, not in my player pool because they project for fewer than 3 fantasy points. I think maybe I want Nyheim Hines in my player pool. Yeah, 4.4%. I think I want some Nyheim Hines in my player pool. So I'm going to give him a projection, make sure it's above 3. I'll start with 4.4 and see what that gets me. And then same thing. Now I'll move to wide receiver. Okay, I'm getting a 40% Jamar Chase, 40% Stephon Diggs. That looks good. Not getting much T. Higgins at all, just 6% T. Higgins. I probably want more than 6% T. Higgins, so I'll give him a boost. Probably want more than 16% Gabe Davis. I've been saying all year, and it's been losing me money, but I'm going to do it again. I'm going to give him a little bit of a projection boost. Tyler Boyd, 22%. Maybe I want a little bit more than that. Or at the very least, I need to probably at this point, I need to give him a little bit of a boost just to keep up with all of the boosts I'm giving elsewhere if I want to stay at 22%. Trenton Irwin, man, 4,400. That is a steep price to pay for Trenton Irwin. Probably don't want a ton, but maybe I want him in my player pool. Maybe I want a couple shares. Isaiah McKenzie, I'm getting to 54%. I don't know that I want 54% Isaiah McKenzie, but I'm not going to adjust his projection at all right now just because I'm giving boosts elsewhere. I'm probably going to get a little bit less Isaiah McKenzie naturally. And if I don't, maybe I'd come back and cut back later. But for now, I'm going to leave it. And then Cole Beasley, not currently in my player pool. Maybe I want him in there, give him a projection above 3. Khalil Shakur maybe as well. Know that he has the ability to break a play open, pay off that salary with one play. So at 5%, 6% Khalil Shakir, 4% Cole Beasley. Yeah, I'll try and get those guys into my player pool. You know what I did immediately the first time I won 6 figures in a DFS contest? I converted my trial membership to Stokastic, awesome at the time, to a full annual subscription. That's because I knew these were the best tools in the industry. That was 2019, and they've gotten even better since then. Well, good news. You can get full access to these same tools without winning 6 figures first with a great offer from BetMGM. You can get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and bet at least $10. That's every tool on the site for every sport other than Fantasy Cruncher, a $240 value. All you need to do is click the link in the description of this video, follow the steps, and deposit $10 or more, and place a bet of $10 or more on whatever you want. And when that bet settles, MGM will hit you up with how to get your free subscription to Stokastic. You don't even need to win the bet. On top of all that, you also get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That means if you win the bet, you win the bet. If you lose the bet, you still get your money back in free bets. It's legit free money and a free subscription to the best DFS tools out there. Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be added to your Stokastic subscription after the fact. Reminder, make sure you use the link or we won't be able to track you. Tight end. Wow. Okay, we're seeing 8% Dawson Knox. I probably want more than 8% Dawson Knox. We know he's got that upside of multiple touchdowns in a game. Pretty nice 69% on Hayden Hurst. That's probably more than I want of Hayden Hurst. But again, I mean, it projects really well, point per dollar at 3,000. Again, as I give other players boosts, I'm probably going to get less of Hurst naturally. If I don't, I'll probably come back and cut down on that projection a little bit. Maybe I'll try and get Mitchell Wilcox into the player pool. Maybe Quentin Morris as well. Kickers, yeah, getting plenty of these kickers. If I don't adjust their projections at all, I'm probably going to get a little bit less than I'm getting right now. I'm just going to leave them where they are for now. We'll see how much I get later. And then the defenses, yeah, it's probably not going to be a big defensive game. These are both pretty good defenses, but it's a tough spot for both of them. I do think the Bengals, Josh Allen could throw some interceptions here. Maybe I want a little bit more than 10%, or at least give them a boost to keep up with this 10%. If I get a little bit less than 23% Bills defense, I'd be okay with that. So I'm just going to leave them where they are. Again, it's all trial and error at this point. Looking at the first few lineups, Josh Allen with multiple pass catchers, Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow with multiple pass catchers, Josh Allen with Isaiah McKenzie, Allen with Diggs, McKenzie, Burrow, Boyd. Yeah, getting positive correlations here right away. I have no issue with these lineups. Here's one we've got Josh Allen with no pass catchers, just the Bills defense. Again, I'm okay with that in some lineups. Josh Allen with just Tyler Bass, the kicker. Don't want to have I don't want to have like 50 of those lineups, Josh Allen naked, but I'm okay with having some here. Now we've got here Josh Allen with Khalil Shakir and Quentin Morris. Now that's a little bit thin. You're kind of counting on a lot from guys who, maybe one of them hits. It's less likely that both of them hit, but use 49,000 salary, so maybe you get 8 points out of each of Shakir and Quentin Morris. And you get a big game from Burrow with Chase and Higgins. I could see it working out. You could, if you wanted to, if you see this lineup and you think there's no way both Shakir and Quentin Morris hit, you could go in and group it out. You can make a group that says, if you have Shakir, don't play Quentin Morris. So just say at most one of however many of these guys who are a little bit thin plays. If you want to make a group and say at most one of those plays, that's something you could do. I also know some great players who go in and make a group that says at least one of those plays, guys like Morris, Shakir, Nyheim Hines, the guys who are, a little bit less likely to hit, but if you do hit, you're more likely to be unique. I know some great players who make lineups that say at least one of those. Not something that I do, but I'm going to get to enough of them. I just look at the exposures. So the lineups look like they correlate well enough. And then again, I go back and I look through position by position. And as you can see, got a lot less of the defense now because of the adjustments I made elsewhere. So now maybe I'd go in and give a boost here, give a boost here. Again, this is not going to be my final crunch here. I'm just kind of trying to show you the process. I'm not trying to actually make these decisions in this video. 24% Tyler Bass, that's probably good, but 6% Evan McPherson, maybe that wouldn't be enough. So I'd come in, give a little boost there. This is all I'm doing. I just crunch out several times, adjusting bit by bit until I get as much as I want of different players. You can see Hayden Hurst come down to 55% now. It's getting probably closer to where I want it to be. Dawson Knox up to 15%. Maybe I want to get a little bit more or give at least a boost to keep up. Probably 8% and 2% Morris and Wilcox. I have no issue with those numbers. Not trying to take a huge stand on those guys. Okay, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs down to 34, 31. That's okay. Up to 15%. T. Higgins. Maybe I still want more T. Higgins. If I do, I'm just going to give him a bit of a boost. So now you can see he projects worse than these guys. If I'm trying to get closer to where they are in terms of ownership on Higgins, projection of 17, he projects worse than these guys. He's also 600 and 800 cheaper than Diggs and Chase. That might be okay. This might get me closer to their number, probably still a little bit under. Now I'm up to 33% Gabe Davis. We know he has that slate breaking upside. I'm probably fine with that. I'll just leave him where he is, see where it comes out. 27% Boyd looks good. I'm not getting to any Trenton Irwin. Honestly, I don't know that I want any Trenton Irwin in my lineups. It's a little bit thin at 4,400. I'd like him a lot better if he was 400 instead of 4,400. But if I want him in the player pool, maybe I'll get him a little bit of a boost, see if he gets in there. And then not getting to any Beasley and Shakir. I like these guys a lot better than Irwin because I think, kind of the same range of outcomes, and they're a lot cheaper. So maybe I give a little bit of a boost to Cole Beasley, Shakir. And then looking at the running, not getting much of these running backs at all. So maybe I give bigger boost here, a full point on Joe Mixon, a full point on Devin Singletary, maybe a full point on James Cook, Samaje Perine. Bigger boost to these guys because I'm not really getting much at all. And then if I leave Nyheim Hines at 4.4, 17%, I honestly don't hate it just because he's not getting a ton of ownership. We know Nyheim Hines can break off a big play, has PPR upside as well. So if I got to 17%, I would not be mad at that. If I want to keep it at 17%, probably need to give him a little bit of a boost just because, again, I've given boosts elsewhere. And still getting a ton of the quarterbacks. If I wanted to, one thing that I could do, if I want to get more of the wide receivers, running backs, etc., I could just come in and lower these guys' projections just slightly. And typically, I don't do that this early in the process. I do it after I've crunched 3 or 4 times. Let's see how this comes out. So yeah, still getting to a ton of the quarterbacks as expected. Running backs still not getting a ton, not getting much Singletary at all. So I would once again go through, give incremental boost to these guys to get closer to the amount that I want. Same thing with the wide receivers, et cetera, et cetera. I just go position by position until I get how much I want of each player, approximately. It's not an exact science. Again, I do have some randomness involved in my process. I just want to be close to, a number that I want for exposure for each player. So that's the entirety of the process at this point. Just looking at the correlations, looking at the exposure levels, making sure they're about where I want them to be, and then I let it ride. That's all I do. Hope you can use this process or something similar to it to make yourself some money tonight. Good luck.